My name is Kevin Avjian, and my personal bubble starts right here.
My name is Kathryn Tonkel. I'm a little more comfortable around people. My personal bubble starts right here.
My name is Sara, and I'm not as comfortable as Katie, so my personal bubble is out here.
As a group, we decided that while being in college, we've all had experiences where our personal space was violated, whether that may be studying in the library, on a treadmill at the gym, or sitting in a computer lab. At one point or another, everyone has had his or her personal space invaded, so we wanted to see how different people might react. Personal space is unique to each individual and can be affected by many different variables, such as who you're with, how familiar you are with your setting, and the context that you are in. In order to get a better idea of the different ways people can experience this and how they might react, we came up with a few basic questions to ask the general public. What does the term personal space mean to you?
Personal space to me is the respect that I guess you have for someone's bubble, respecting that they might have, a little bit of an issue with people coming in.
I would have to say personal space is just your general area where you feel comfortable enough where people don't come as close to you. That makes you uncomfortable. When people get too close, I think there's societal norms that just kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, that just, there's societal norms that people know not to get as close to you as they should, or not get too close to you because it makes you uncomfortable. And I think every society is different, but I think that it varies depending on your time, place, culture, how old you are. So I think that it kind of depends, but everybody kind of knows in a society what personal space is and what they can and cannot do to violate that.
Personal space to me is the amount of distance that you acquire between you and yourself, and it varies from person to person.
Having my own area that's mine, that people, sure they can come into it, but they're not going to mess with things. Like if I leave it some way, it's going to be like that when I come back.
I think personal space means the physical distance between you and another person, and also the emotional distance between you and another person.
If I don't know you, I need it.
Personal space means like a little personal bubble, so no one comes within like a foot and a half of my face. It's personal space for me.
So personal space to me is just like a certain distance around myself that I feel if another person infiltrates that, it's just like too close for me, and it's like I just feel uncomfortable with that.
In a personal setting, what is your preferred distance from someone while talking?
I would say about maybe a foot and a half or a foot, like maybe an elbow's length. I think that's pretty reasonable, especially for a stranger.
In public space, I'd say it depends on the person. Obviously, if my friend, it doesn't bother me if they're sitting right next to me. They could be sitting on my lap, it wouldn't bug me. But I think that if it's some random stranger, I would say give me like a good foot and a half. Don't get too close to my face. If you're sitting like right here next to me, I don't think it'd be as weird. But if you're up close and personal and talking to me this close, I think that it would make me a lot more uncomfortable than anything else. I think around your face, it's more awkward and different than as opposed to somebody who's kind of in your peripherals or no, behind you would be weird too. Give me a good 2 feet behind me too.
In public, with a person I've never met before, it's about a foot and a half between me, which is about like arm's reach.
Preferred distance, I would say varies. I mean, if I'm friendly with, if I kind of know them, then a few feet. Still, if they're a stranger and I'm having casual conversation, still a few feet. But I mean, if it's a significant other, it's probably going to be a little close.
My preferred distance would be probably an elbow distance away from them. Definitely nothing closer than that, but it depends on if I know how well I know the person too. If it's someone I know pretty well, I could be right next to them and not care, but if it's someone I don't have any experience talking with or anything, it would definitely be at least an elbow away.
Just within arm's reach.
My preferred distance when talking to somebody in public would probably be 2.5 feet, I'd say. If they're a stranger.
I'd have to say probably like 1 foot to 2 feet is comfortable for me. I mean, I could do closer, but I think just that distance is good because you're not too close to them. Like, you don't like smell their breath or like get any spit, because that's always bad. But like, yeah, probably like 1.5 feet.
Obviously, these zones can vary depending on the personality type of each individual. The textbook states that your casual personal zone, which again is your close friends and family, can range up to 4 feet. However, personally, I would not stand that far away from my grandma or say my mom or dad while having a conversation with them. Whereas my partner Kevin has more of a business relationship with his parents, so he might stand that far away. 4 feet would not seem that unrealistic to Kevin, but does to me. With that, some people are naturally more introverted, keeping to themselves, and the textbook states that if you are an introvert, your zones can be extended by even another 6 inches. So these can vary depending on each person. Have you ever had an experience where someone violated your personal space? If so, explain.
Yeah, someone fell asleep on my shoulder on an airplane once. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was a little bit of a respect thing. Just coming into my bubble.
I think everybody's kind of had moments where they feel uncomfortable when somebody's just too close to them. I think any form of standing in line and somebody's right behind you or right next to you and they feel like you can hear them breathing behind your neck, or when you're at the gym and somebody gets the treadmill right next to you when there's 6 wide open ones, or the bathroom's a really weird one when there's like 7 open stalls and you're in one and then somebody comes in the one right next to you, or you're washing your hands and there's just certain places where it's inappropriate to get too close to somebody. And I think that, I mean, everybody's had that feeling where you're just like wanting to push somebody a good 2 feet away from you and you can't.
I'm a pretty tall guy. When I sit on a plane, I'm always feel like my personal space bubble is being invaded because the economy class seats aren't big enough for me.
Violation of personal space. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I came into my room and there was a pile of puke on the floor. And I felt that was a little bit of a violation. Didn't really appreciate that.
Well, I play rugby, so all the time. Not exactly, not something that was traumatic, but if someone does get in an uncomfortable distance, I definitely would like back off. Usually with another, like the opposite sex, probably in most cases.
Yes, often when I'm in airplanes and I strike up a conversation with someone while waiting for the bathroom, for example, or just when it gets to be really close and they don't stop talking to me, I can get uncomfortable sometimes.
Couple times, homeless people have come, right up here. It's just way too close for comfort. Yeah.
One time at a place that I worked, it was a food place, and I was making a sandwich, and my boss came up right behind me and put her hands on me actually, and kind of got close and said, "Oh, you're doing a good job." And so just that space infiltration was a little bit uncomfortable, not to mention the physical contact, but yeah, she just kind of invaded my personal space and made me feel uncomfortable in that situation, I guess.
Okay, so the first zone of personal space is the intimate zone. It ranges from touching to 18 inches. The next zone is personal casual. This ranges from 18 inches to 4 feet. This is where you talk to your close friends and family members. Third zone is the social zone. This is where you interact with people on a daily also depending on how comfortable you are with the person that you're talking to. So it can be from all the way out here, or back to 4 feet where we were earlier, we were just talking to each other. The last zone is the public zone, and this ranges from the 8 feet to beyond. This is where you expect people to normally be in your everyday life, to not be invading your personal space, and it's people you don't know.
Say you are sitting in an empty computer lab and someone comes and sits directly next to you. How do you think you might react?
So long as they're not being a nuisance or, invading my little area, I don't have a problem with that.
What if the computer lab is empty?
Might be a little weird why they chose to sit directly next to me, but as long as they're cool, I don't think it's an issue.
I think this has for sure happened to me when there's 30 open chairs and somebody comes and sits next to you, and I can verify for a fact that I stared at them because I didn't know why or who would do something like that, so I give them kind of like, really? Is there a reason you're sitting next to me? I mean, obviously I'm not going to say anything, but I think that they know that you're making them uncomfortable if you're staring at them the moment they sit right next to you and there's 20 other open chairs.
Did it make you nervous?
No. Well, I mean, if I was doing something important or time consuming, or not time consuming, but I was on a time crunch and obviously I had somebody kind of disrupt me and throw me off a little bit, but no.
I'd react firstly by looking at who it was, so I'd know who'd be sitting next to me, but otherwise I'd ignore them for the rest of the experience.
Once again, I feel like that one would vary. I mean, if I know them or someone knows them, it's like, oh, hey, it's a friend, whatever. I mean, if I don't know them, as long as they're not doing anything too weird and not bugging me or doing anything to like disrupt my studying or anything, then no big deal.
I would probably laugh, truthfully, just from how uncomfortable it would be. Just like giggle to myself, and probably just focus on the computer in front of me and not really talk to them very much.
Depending on the situation, I would be wondering why at first and feel a little strange about it, but then if that was the only thing that happened, well, I wouldn't mind.
Probably just ignore you. Just not acknowledge you're there.
I probably wouldn't move my seat, but I would kind of like shift over just a little bit, like not noticeably for them, because I would feel like that would just kind of like make them feel like I thought they smelled or something, but I would just like internally and just kind of like slowly move away from them, just because it's kind of weird that they chose the seat right next to me if I don't even know them. So
we came up with a hypothesis that puts our last question to the test. Our hypothesis stated that as we violate someone's personal territory, they will withdraw from their space. This means that when someone encroaches on their territory, they will physically get up and remove themselves from the situation. We went to the Bexel Computer Lab here at Oregon State University in the evening when there was hardly anyone in the lab. Our group member, Kevin, sat a little too close to a few different people, and we managed to get it on tape.
While in the computer lab, we sat next to 10 different people who were strangers, 5 of those being girls and 5 of those being guys. When initially sitting next to someone, it didn't really cause that much of a reaction. One female and no male showed a reaction at first, but as soon as Kevin started to scoot closer or look at their screen, they started to show discomfort. The females obviously showed a little bit more discomfort, I think due to nervousness. However, overall, no one showed that big of a reaction. As you can tell from our experiment, our hypothesis was proven wrong. No one that Kevin sat next to actually got up and left, although we did find that they experienced discomfort and showed it in a few different ways. We found that generally speaking, the girls showed more of a nervous discomfort, while the guys showed more of a defensive type of response, by actually looking back at Kevin instead of ignoring him.
You can see from our interviews and experiment that everyone has a different perception of personal space. People do indeed react differently when their space is encroached upon, but it's not usually drastic enough to cause them to leave. So next time you sit next to somebody, especially on an airplane, you might want to think twice about their personal space.
Thank you to all of our participants who let us interview them and gave us their great responses. Also, thank you to all the people that we got to sit by next to in the computer lab, and sorry if we freaked you out.
Although our experiment focused on people invading your space in a computer lab, this could happen in many different ways. Here are some funny images expressing those ways.